I'd also like to thank Mr. McAdams for allowing me to proceed at this time. In fact, and in truth, it would be his turn, and he's allowed me to have the opportunity to proceed. I'd like to move first, if I may, and rather expeditiously, to Mr. Gerard. Sir, the model that you currently utilize, do you maintain the traditional credit score, and then do you add these other, what you're calling alternative data points to the traditional score?
We do. We use ICO score. We use.
That's going to be enough because I have a lot to cover. I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't mean to be rude, crude, and unrefined.
Not at all.
Oh, thank you. Friends, I started with Mr. Gerard for a reason. What we're calling alternative data, in most circumstances, there may be some that I'm not covering, is really additional data. It is additional data. My bill that I have is not about alternative data. Alternative meaning one or another. It's about additional data. It's about what Mr. Gerard does when he takes the traditional data and then he adds what we are calling alternative, but it really is more data that we're adding. We're not leaving out the traditional scores. My bill does not require consumers to opt in. Consumers do this of their own volition. They can allow their additional data to be scored, and it can help a good many consumers, as evidenced by what Mr. Gerard has called to our attention. The bill is a bill that has metamorphosed. I confess that initially we used the term alternative, but we soon realized that when people heard the term alternative, they assumed that we were somehow going to negate what was already there as a traditional score. So now, understanding that we are talking about additional, we're talking about the utilities, we're talking about the rent, but we simply add it to what is already there. And in doing this, I think we will give many consumers the opportunity to own a home, to make purchases that they would not ordinarily. Those that don't opt in will not be, they won't have their traditional score in any way encroached upon, infringed upon. It won't have an impact on that. Only those who opt in. With that said, I want to give you an opportunity to ask me a question. Let's turn the tables, if you don't mind, so that we can become as clear as possible, perhaps perspicuously so, such that there's a better understanding of what this bill is about. I'm not going to debate persons who want to have an alternative credit scoring model. That's perfectly acceptable to me. I would only suggest that if we focus on this bill, that we use the term additional credit scoring. Question from any member of the panel, please.
I have a question, actually,
Yes,
that
thank you.
Mr. Gerard may answer. It grows directly out of your question. Thank you, Congressman, for inviting us to ask. In the first instance, we've described credit invisibles as those who do not have a traditional credit score under the FICO criteria. So to the extent that inclusion is our goal, which I think is the bipartisan motivation for the committee and our thoughtfulness today, if inclusion is the goal and the idea that you propose is that alternative data is additional data supplementing an already robust methodology for analyzing the likelihood of consumer default or predicting creditworthiness, I'm not sure I follow how credit invisibles are actually captured if the data that's being used is not the primary source of evaluation.
If I may answer, because we have 32 seconds left. You could be a great member of Congress, by the way, with your question. Here's how they're captured. Because they can opt in. And if they have nothing more, that will be there, plus the nothing, plus the something. I hate to be so elemental with the explanation, but what I want to do is make it as clear as possible that what we're doing is leaving the traditional, whatever it happens to be, and then we bring these additional points of data to the scoring process. Now, given that my time is almost up, and by some standards up, I see.
Would the gentleman yield for 1 minute?
I will yield and beg that the chair would not look at the clock.